presentation is based on a book that I'm writing, and it's still in progress. So there's that. I also wanted to sort of address the fact that the presentation is geared towards the audience here. That is a pagan audience who has some familiarity with the things that pagans do in our practice. The book itself will be geared to a wider audience, and so this is a much more focused piece than the book will be. So the title is obviously Synthesizing the Dark Goddess and the God of Light on the Internet to Affect Social Justice. We'd probably all agree that the world is a little messed up right now. Whether you want to talk about the energy being off, or about injustice, or about fundamentalism in the arenas of politics and or religion, we're not currently in harmony. I suggest to you that the internet is actually the perfect tool for changing that. And further, that we pagans are more equipped than others to lead the way. What I'm proposing is both a two-pronged approach and a shortcut. Because I like shortcuts. The harmony that we seek is going to come from equality. By equality, I don't mean homogeny. I do mean a respect for the world in which we live, as well as racial equality, gender equality, and orientation equality. I mean an end to the idea that any one person or group of people is any better or worse than anyone else. I mean that we start to listen differently, so that our differences, our experiences, our cultural lineages are honored rather than judged. In order to achieve that, we need to protect each other. You really are your brother or your sister's keeper. Honor their agency, their experience, and their choices, but you can always ask someone if they need backup. We need to heal, and in order to do so, we need the safety of knowing that people have our backs in order to start that work. We're not willing to put our necks on the line unless there's some idea of safety there. We need to hear each other and be heard. It is in being able to tell our personal stories and our cultural histories that we jumpstart some of the healing that I'm talking about. And it's in hearing those stories from others that we continue that process. Crystal Blandon died a couple of years ago in her keynote address here. We need compassionate reason. We need to be able to think through things from the space of the heart, listening and feeling for truth without taking things personally. Without that space, we can't hear other people's stories and our egos get in the way. So for the last 2,000-ish years, we, as a population in general, have been looking for the divine outside of ourselves. Some call that transcendence, some call it enlightenment. It's generally associated with the masculine divine. When that's done in imbalance, this search disconnects us from our power because it disconnects us from our personal connection to source. In shadow, in imbalance, it's become a tool of the power elite and has rendered the majority of the population controllable. If you perceive that the divine is completely outside of you, you've already given your power and your agency away. We've been slowly moving towards seeking the divine inside of ourselves, and our community is sort of leading the way on that, I think. Some call that imminence, some call it shadow work. It's generally associated with the feminine divine. However, done in imbalance, this search is equally disempowering, because we start to focus too much on protection and walls rather than connection and healthy boundaries. When your only connection to the divine is inside of you, your world can get really small and angry, and your edges can get really sharp. It also gives us the incomplete idea that we're the center of the universe. Yes, you are the center of your universe. You're not the center of the universe. So either polarity can pull us out of balance and puts our entire paradigm, our entire world in shadow. Shadow work's awesome, but I don't want to live there. We need to create a synthesis of the two in order to rebalance the world. How do we do that? Approach the world as if everything is divine. Because it is. Understand that the divine is to be found both inside of ourselves and outside of ourselves. And in doing so, we need to honor all gender archetypes as equal. Treat the act of reaching out to the divine, or reaching into the divine, as a breath. You go outward, you come inward. You go outward, come inward. All the energy in the universe has a push and a pull to it. So should your quest to connect with the divine. So what does the internet have to do with all of this? Between smartphones and tablets and actual computers, we spend a lot of time on the internet. Most of us have not given a lot of thought to where it is that we're sending our energy. Some of us have. Let's look at that. The internet is neutral, powerful, and ubiquitous. It's also a place of paradox. The internet was created by DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and contains the energy of the military-industrial complex. Anything you create, you know this from magic, takes on the flavor of the people or agency that created it. Inherent in that is a sense of depersonalization. Most people cannot kill something if they can connect with their humanity or the humanity of the thing they're trying to kill. So the military uses a lot of tools to depersonalize. That energy can infect everything it touches. That's how we end up with the trolls, the groups like Gamergate, with cyberbullying. And the book actually is going to have interviews with a number of people who have been subject to that so that I can analyze some of the components of that and how they respond to it. I want to include an interview with Lindy West, who, if you haven't read her story, turned the tables on one of her trolls and in humanizing herself by asking, so what's up, why are you doing this? Actually got him to shift and apologize, and he's now an ally. So it can be done. So I said it was a paradox, right? The internet's also a manifestation of the fourth dimension. No time, no space, no personality baggage that you don't choose to bring. You can be anyone from anywhere. It's that anonymity that creates the opportunity for equality. We get to choose how we present on the internet, as long as we all agree that the internet is more than good than Facebook. As the fourth dimension, it's a place of archetypes and prototypes, a place of energy transfer. So if we change how we relate there, that change can be manifested out into the world. It can be a shortcut to change. Our experience on the internet as a fourth dimensional space is currently in the shadows. It's informed by that depersonalization I spoke of. But we can push the energy of the internet toward or away from depersonalization through intent. Humanize or depersonalize. You're not shouting into the void. This is the fourth dimension. Energy matters. Intent matters. Many of us know how to operate on the astral. Let's put that to good use. Remember that energy follows focus. When we go into a space of pure energy like the fourth dimension, and we focus on a concept, like equality, we feed it. We can manifest things into our third dimensional space. I will probably be referring to third dimensional space heretofore as meat space. For the non-geeks in the room, that's where you're walking around in your meat suit. It's the part of your experience that causes your spiritual self to be having a human experience. So if we change the flow of our river, change the flow of energy of the internet, we change the flow of our river. What do? First of all, pull your own energy in and shield. You're operating the astral. It's not all rainbows and tea cakes out there. We forget sometimes how much we're affected by what we encounter. Most of us get a lot of information from our teachers and our practice on how to shield, but we don't always get instruction on how to pull our energy in. In fact, a lot of times we're taught how to make our energy big. So if you would take a moment right now, pen, pens, stop typing. And imagine breathing your energy inward into your core. Continue to hold it there as you exhale. And allow it to gently expand back outward, but only an inch or so from the physical boundaries of your body. When you do this, not only are you not bombarding those around you with your energy, but the energy you have has more integrity. It's thicker, less spread out, less vulnerable to breach. So this in itself is a form of shielding. Conversely, how we react to what we encounter will affect what we've encountered. Even if that reaction is not outward, it may be strong. The effect may be stronger if it's an outward reaction. But how you react internally to what you encounter on the internet is going to affect that you've encountered. It's super important to act consciously on the internet and in the astral. So act from a place of consciousness, but don't avoid action. We all need to be actively participating in the change that I'm talking about. We need to humanize ourselves to counter the depersonalization and to ward off attack. And we need to humanize the people we encounter, both in the astral and on the internet, in order to counteract that energy of depersonalization. One of the keys to making this work is honest sincerity. You may think that people can't read you on the internet, but I assure you they can. Allow me to illustrate. And I'm not going to apologize for bringing politics in this because I'm not the first. You don't need to be in front of either of these people to get a read on them. Bernie Sanders, whether you agree with him or not, believes in what he says, and people respond to that. Sometimes angrily, but they're responding nonetheless. It's kind of like how people respond to real sugar or honey. There's an authenticness to it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is usually saying something to generate an effect. And I would say that even his followers believe that. They like that effect. He's pretending to be real, but he's just trying to get a base response. It's manufactured sincerity, and it comes off to me like aspartame or saccharin.
What if you're diabetic?
Sorry?
What if you're diabetic?
Aspartame or saccharin?
No, but I can't have sugar either.
Fair. So being sincere.
Metaphor.
Being sincere requires vulnerability. To do that, we have to get past the fear and the insecurity of the ego. The ego is what bites us in the ass. You may have noticed that we pagans have a lot of rituals for getting past the ego. It helps us do what we do. So why don't we create some rituals before going on the internet, or that can even be done on the internet, to shift our energy? An example of this might be something as simple as taking a moment to ground and pull yourself into your heart and connect with your joy before you open your browser. Instead of there's someone wrong on the internet. I'm guilty of it, I get it. Or you can have your start page be a prayer you wrote, or even an image of a deity or an iconic person you associate with peace or equality. You may also want to create some rituals for when you return from the internet, so you're not bringing any of that depersonalization back with you. I personally have rituals for when I walk in the door at home because my home is sacred space. It's equally as important to clear once I get off the net. Cord cutting, smudging, grounding again, rubbing your hands and feet with salt are all simple ways to do this. You figure out what it is for you according to your practice. We have a lot of social activists in our midst already. We also have a lot of people trained to minister to others, to counsel, to help people through their challenges. Those types of people are trained in how to listen. It's a skill that we can draw on and learn from and pass on to others. We need to adapt it for the venue, for the internet. but it can be done. Let's make the internet a place where people can really hear each other instead of shouting past each other. When we really work to hear what's being related, that'll be mirrored back at us because it's the astral. As above, so below, as within, so without. When we do that, we allow for an evolution of ideas to take place. We allow people to take their concepts to maturity rather than being stuck in the adolescent phase. We move into row terms from the page or the night into kingship. And I apologize for the gender-related term. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, when we can get past the point of the ego, when we allow ourselves to be sincere, truly sincere, we make it okay for others to do the same. All of this requires taking personal responsibility. We can no longer afford to sit back and wait for someone else to be the grown-up, for someone else to fix it. We have to stand up and own the space. We have to stand up for what's right. It's not for anyone else to do. It's for each of us. Anything less, and we're back in the space of ego. We're essentially shepherding the internet out of its pubescence and into adulthood, allowing it to mature. So sometimes it is going to be a little like dealing with teenagers. Be perseverant. Keep injecting humanity into the space, and shield yourself from taking things personally. In the terminology of social activism, send it out without holding it in. Embody the archetype of the feminine divine. Be the vessel through which all of the energy in the universe flows, without feeling like you have to grasp onto any of it. This means not getting into flame wars. Means not typing anything you wouldn't say to someone face to face. It means not taking the bait when someone tries to hook you. It may mean cord cutting when you get offline. Final piece of this is that as we invoke the energy of the mother, we allow for the flow of energy and we foster the energy of equality. We allow each person to be who they choose to be. We honor our differences, our otherness, and we hear each other's stories. The ultimate archetype of the feminine divine in Kabbalah is Binah, the great mother, who's also called understanding. She honors the differences and loves the differences in her children more than the similarities because that's what defines them. Embody that energy. And as we feed equality itself and all the energy of the universe, we guarantee that it manifests out into the world. I'll do one more slide. To recap, be conscious of what you're doing out there. You can be conscious of what you're doing with your energy and the energies you're encountering. Pull your energy in, shield like you would before going to the astral. Understand that boundaries are important. Create some rituals before you go online and after you return to meet space. Hold a place of honest sincerity. Don't bring back goobers.
Be in that space of namaste. The divine within me honors the divine within you.
Connect from the heart. Allow for your own humanity and the humanity of others. Downplay the reindeer games of depersonalization. Don't get into flame wars. Don't say things you wouldn't say to somebody's face. Don't pick up the bait. Remember that that which you focus on, you feed. Listen to the words and for the energy. Find the point of relation or commonality, not the differences. Work on shepherding ideas to maturity. Be an example. Be the bigger person. And foster equality. Feed as much energy as you can into that ideal because you'll be creating the opportunity for equality to manifest into our 3D reality. Thank you.